Assalamualaikum warahmatullah and good day everyone. Welcome to the final topic of Keeping It Balanced short course. In this last topic, we will discuss how to record journal entries from accounting equation by applying the double entry system. In understanding the double entry system, we will also be discussing T accounts. From the accounting equation exercise that we did in previous topic, we know that any changes to one element will result in change or changes to other elements or itself. And this will be the basis for double entry. The pluses and minuses will denote increases and decreases in the elements accounts, and that increase and decrease will be denoted by debit and credit. So double entry simply means for each transaction there will always be debit entry and credit entry. Regardless of whether it will involve one element or more than one element, there must be debit and credit. And as I shared in previous topic, from one transaction, there could be multiple entries for its journal entry. So where do this debit and credit come from? Debit and credit actually represent sides of a T account. In accounting, an account can be represented by a T, where it has two sides, the left-hand side that we call debit side and the right-hand side that is called credit side. So for the elements in the accounting equation, all accounts under each element will have the same T account with the debit and the credit. Example of asset accounts include cash, inventories or stock, machines, and buildings. Example of liabilities accounts include loans, creditors, accrued expense, or unpaid expense. Example of equity accounts include capital, withdrawal expenses, cost, loss, income, revenue, or sales and gain. As you can see here, because asset, liability, and equity are elements in accounting equation, the plus and minus signs differ between elements on the left, which is asset, from elements on the right of the equation that are liabilities and equity. Because you want to make sure that the equation always balance, those on the left-hand side of the equation will have the opposite signs of those on the right-hand side. So here we have for asset, any increase or a plus sign will be on debit side of the account, and any decrease or a minus sign will be on the credit side of the account. As for liability and equity, it is the other way around. Any increase or plus sign will be on credit side of the account, and we know that equity has sub-elements to it. So any sub-elements that will increase equity will be credited. So every time you record income and capital, it will be credited. And any decrease or a minus sign will be on the debit side of the account. So any sub-elements that will decrease equity will be debited. So every time you record expense and withdrawal, it will be debited. The easiest way to remember this is to just remember the sign for asset. And liability and equity, it will be the other way around. And also, we need to remember the effect of income, capital, expense, and withdrawal to the equity. Ledger is just a collection of accounts. And we have accounts that are grouped by its functions, like sales ledger, purchase ledger, cash ledger, and general ledger. We need to apply this system to double entry of debit and credit. You may refer to the journal entry rules to complete the requirement 4 of donor delivery services exercise. Since you already completed the accounting equation table, we can now proceed to do the journal entry. But we will first do the simplified version of journal, where I want you to decide the debit and credit of the account involved in each transaction, just by referring to the accounting equation table that you have completed. From the table, you have the relevant information to do the journal entry, the elements involved, the item names, which will simply be the name of the accounts under the elements, the signs, whether plus or minus, which denote you need to either debit or credit that account based on its element, and the amount, how much you need to debit or credit. To do requirement 4 of donor delivery services exercise, we will only decide on the debit and credit involved in each transaction. let us try the first one together. To do that, we can refer to the rules discussed earlier. From the first transaction, it involves assets and equity, so we can refer to rules for assets and rules for equity. The name of the items are cash under asset and capital under equity, so these will become the name of the accounts involved. The cash item has a plus sign, so for asset, a plus means a debit, so we shall debit cash for 10,000 ringgit. And for capital, it also has a plus sign, so we shall credit the capital account with the same amount. It is quite easy really, but requires a bit of practice. Now, at least for this transaction, even without checking the equations debit and credit, once we get the cash that is debited, the other entry must be credited, because there are only two entries for this transaction. For the rest of the transactions, you may do them on your own. Pause this video and resume when you are ready. Now let us check your answers for the journal entries. Transaction number 2, there shall be debit computer account of 5,000 since there is a plus sign for asset element and the item is computer, and a credit for creditor account of the same amount since there is a plus sign for liabilities and the item is creditor. For transaction 3, there shall be debit advertisement expense account of 1,000 and a credit cash account of the same amount. For transaction 4, there shall be debit cash account of 5,000 and credit revenue accounts of the same amount. And for transactions 5, there shall be debit withdrawal accounts of 200 and credit cash accounts of the same amount. Congratulations! You have successfully recorded the journal entries for all of the transactions. Let me introduce to you how a proper journal shall look like. In a proper journal, we have the dates. Remember, in accounting, dates are very crucial information. And then we have the accounts involved, where we identify which account shall be debited and which account shall be credited, denoted by the amounts involved in debit and credit column. Under the accounts, we shall have a brief explanation of what the transaction is all about. So this is how a proper journal looks like if you do it manually. These are how the journal entries shall look like for donut delivery services if you were to do it properly. We have all the information that we need to record this transaction in individual accounts. So that is all about topic 4. Congratulations again, you have made it until the end of this course. By now, you have briefly introduced to definitions of accounting, forms of business entities and types of business activities, errors in accounting, reports produced by financial accounting, the 5 elements of financial statements and why it is crucial to understand them, the accounting equation, double entry system, and the journal entry. By briefly knowing about all the topics, you should be able to name the 5 elements of financial statements in order to have complete information of financial statements, to explain forms of business entities and types of business activities in order to differentiate between them, to explain clearly how accounting equation works in bookkeeping in order to record journal entries of simple transactions for a sole proprietorship that provides services as intended by the learning outcome of the course. At this point, you may not be able to produce the financial statements yet, but you sure have the know-how to do the basic bookkeeping. To end, please do not forget to try the assessment provided for you in this section to test your understanding of the topic. Also, feel free to rewatch the video if you think you need to. Please remember to complete the final assessment for the course. Until the next time, thank you for joining me in this short course, and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.